We walk around all the time. We spend all our lives walking. When our knees hurt, and we often change the way we walk in a way that's not good. What we found in looking at the way we walk, there are certain patterns that we use that if we change, we can actually improve the loading within the knee itself. And these are some things I'm going to show you today. Often when we're walking with normal, what's considered heel-toe gait, we walk when we put the heel down and then we touch, and we often will fall down onto the midfoot. Okay? Now if you notice what's happening here, is when your foot strikes, when you have heel strike, then that impact of your heel against the ground is going to create some pressure that's going to go to your knee and to the lower extremity. So that looks like this. Now this is an exaggeration. This is what a lot of times people are doing when you're walking. You're spending just a little bit too much time on heel strike. Often when people hurt, we'll also see them do, we call it the pirate walk. If you consider what's happening, you have your foot that's hitting the ground and the impact is driving the forces up here. That has several bad elements to it. One of them is that it's compressing the kneecap into the groove, which can worsen kneecap pain. The second thing is it can actually impact the joint, which can worsen the joint pain as well too. And we often hear people complain about pain that goes into the leg and the thigh and the back after it's been going on for a while. Now the other negative element to doing this kind of a heel strike gait is you're not using your quad very much. So you can walk with this type of a method when you're walking with a heel-toe gait, and you can see here that I'm not really utilizing my quad. So when you don't use your quadriceps muscle over here, it tends to get weak over time. So we see people who've had poor gait will very often have weak quads. So an alternative to heel strike when we're walking is a gait that involves more load absorption. Now consider what would happen if you, instead of striking at the heel, you roll quickly onto the midfoot and you have a little bit of a bend. So there are two good things that are happening. Number one is you're creating a spring effect with your foot and your knee against the ground. So if you notice the difference between that, which is an impact, and this, where the lower limb is acting as a spring. So that looks a little bit like this. If you notice, you can actually even hear the difference as you're walking. It doesn't look much different. At the same time, what's happening now is you're creating a situation where two good things are happening. One is you're decreasing the load by going onto the midfoot early and creating a little bit of a bend. You're decreasing the load on the knee joint and the knee cap. And then two, by causing the knee to bend, you're also utilizing the muscles more. So you're creating a situation where you're utilizing the muscles in the front and the back of the knee, which is very, very healthy. So there are many ways to do this. So one way is very subtle. The subtle way is by just rolling, instead of impacting the heel, you're rolling quickly onto the midfoot. That looks like this. Okay, you see, you can even listen to the difference. It's a quieter type of a gait, and you're really focusing on the midfoot. Now if you look at the studies on how the foot hits the ground, you're providing less load to the inside of the knee. The alternative way is one way we will sometimes show people when they're learning how to walk after something such as a knee surgery, and when someone is walking around with their I call it the pirate walk, in which we actually have them emulate what we did when we were kids, when you're creeping up on somebody, when you're really allowing the foot to hit and you're exaggerating knee bending. When you're doing that, you always want to have some type of assistive device, whether it's a crutch or a cane, because you're shifting your center of gravity forward, and you always run the risk of falling forward. So you have to use some kind of assistive device, and you over flex the knee. That allows the quad to start working. When you've had a surgery and your knees are weak, you tend to have a very weak quad. And by over exaggerating the bending of the knee, you will get the quad to start working. And that's a very good way to teach someone how to walk who's been limping for a while. Again, you start with the heel strike, go quickly to the midfoot, you roll down and you bend it, and then you come back up. That's more the type of gait when we're just trying to teach someone how to walk who's been limping for a while. For all others, for those that really want to try to change the way they use walking during their daily lives, we go for more of a modification, which is what I told you about. As opposed to the heel strike kind of a gait, this one uses very little quad and creates a lot of impact. We're going more to a load absorbing gait, which is going to look like this, where you're absorbing the load and you're bending the knee just a bit.